The bike industry says
GT Bikes says the end of new bikes. Production of new bikes.
Welcome back to another video, and today we've got a bit of a different one. It's not very often I get to sit down and just chat absolute waffle on the channel, so that's what we're doing today. And yes, I am in the garden shed because it's blowing an absolute gale plat outside.
Hey, what's wrong with you?
I'm on pills, for God's sake!
Thought I'd come in under a bit of shelter next to the mountain bike, which seems fitting. We're speaking about the mountain bike industry. Not just mountain bikes, the bike industry as a whole, and the struggles it's having right now. I must just say, that isn't anything dodgy. That's my mum's lavender. For any of you try to accuse me of illegal stuff. Mountain bike industry, if you're involved in it in any way, if you ride them, if you work within it, you know it's had its issues in the last couple of years, pretty much since the pandemic. And in all of my videos, I get comments asking my thoughts on it. Now, don't get me wrong, I've only worked in the mountain bike industry and with bikes for about 6 months now, mostly just making content. But one of the brands I have worked with is GT. And if you're watching this video, you probably already know that GT has had some struggles over the last couple of months, meaning that they've paused production of all new bikes and they're basically just selling off stock. They've dropped all of their riders, they've dropped any influencers that they were supporting, they're completely pausing all manufacturing of new bikes and they're just selling off old stock. Whether that means they're going to bounce back in a year's time and start producing bikes again, I'm unsure, and they haven't really put much out in terms of the future, you know. The thing is, GT pausing production and having issues isn't uncommon for the industry right now. As we already know, so many industries are struggling, not just mountain bikes, the car industry is massively as well. And that's obviously one, because the economy isn't the best, people haven't got as much money to spend, and then when they are spending it, they're keeping their cars and their bikes and stuff for longer rather than every single year buying a new one. But that's a massive part of it, people have less money to spend. But I also think a massive part of it, especially for the bike industry, whereas in the pandemic in 2020, suddenly everyone was wanting to go outside. Suddenly everyone looked out the window and thought, oh yeah, there's fucking hills to ride down, but first I've got to buy a mountain bike. I mean, suddenly everyone was buying paddle boards, everyone was buying motocross bikes. Because of the lockdowns, everyone had so much time. People just started to find new hobbies to keep them busy. Obviously made the sales of bikes go up massively, which a lot of bike companies would have sold 3 or 4 years worth of bikes in 1 year. Which, don't get me wrong, at the time for bike brands, that must have been phenomenal seeing these crazy numbers coming in, and I think they got a bit over-carried away thinking that that would continue and that was just the new norm. Everyone had run out of bikes, you couldn't get bikes anywhere. People were buying bikes on Facebook Marketplace for way, way more expensive than what they should have been. People were paying £300 for a 10-year-old Carrera. There's no brand new bikes to buy because everyone had bought them. They literally couldn't make the bikes fast enough. A lot of the factories were closed due to the pandemic. So then I think the next year the bike brands thought, oh, amazing. This year we'll make sure to order this many more bikes in, thinking that it would continue at a similar rate. Obviously that didn't happen. Everyone went back to work and had less time. Suddenly people weren't riding their bikes as much and they lost interest. Suddenly a massive percentage of the people that bought the bikes in the lockdown, then people that no longer were riding their mountain bikes or no longer interested in mountain biking, didn't have the time or whatever, they were then selling their bikes. Over the last 3 or 4 years since the pandemic, we've just had a massive influx of second-hand bikes. With the economy right now, people not having as much money, like I said, people would rather buy a bike that's 4 years old, second-hand, for 1,500 quid, compared to spending 5, 6, 7 grand on a brand new bike. It just means the second-hand market is saturated. There's so many bikes out, but it drops all of them bike prices down because there's so many available. And I think that mixed in with the economy right now, with people having less money to spend, people are naturally looking to spend less on their hobbies because it's not an essential, you know. People would rather go and buy a bike second hand for £1,500, which you can quite easily do now, buy a decent bike that's 2 or 3 years old for £1,500 because bike prices have dropped so much in the second hand market. Which then means less people are buying brand new bikes, which means the bike brands are struggling because they've got all of this inventory that they've had over the last couple of years from this big bike boom that they thought would last for years, which didn't. Trying to sell that off as well as bringing out new bikes to keep the interest in the brand. Don't get me wrong, there is still so many people that buy brand new bikes. Maybe they saved it over the year, or if riding's that important to them, that is an essential for them. But I'm talking about the average Joe that either wants to get into the sport. They're not going to want to buy a brand new bike for that much money when they can go into the second-hand market and buy one for much cheaper. You can spend so much less money and still get a bike that will do the average person pretty well for a decent amount of time. Don't get me wrong, that's just my opinion. Like I said, I am no expert in the mountain bike industry. I've only been riding mountain bikes for a year. For me looking in, that's what I feel like has happened. Overstocked and over forecasted for a lot of the brands through the pandemic. Then that's ended. The second-hand bike market has gone mad. Everyone's selling bikes. Paired with people having less money is why brands like GT are struggling. So the question is, what's next? Mountain biking as a sport is growing year on year. Even new brands coming in. There's like Amflow, and there's some even recent brands like Cam Zink's making one. So there is brands coming up. I think the main thing is going to be time. I feel like over the next couple of years, it will just level back out again, and the second-hand market will level out, which will then put a little bit less pressure onto the brand new bikes. Don't get me wrong, it's so sad that people are actually losing their jobs at GT, that work actually behind the scenes at GT, that riders are losing their half their income due to not being sponsored anymore. I'm quite lucky because I make all of my income on views. I don't get paid from any brands. All I get is free stuff. But there's riders out there that are full sponsored by these brands that are losing 50% of their whole income. That would be crazy. I do hope that over time it can just sort itself out. And it definitely will. There's too many people interested in the sport for it not to. The companies that haven't got their stuff in order might not be here by the time it does level back out. And then the ones that are the ones that did get their stuff in order and had the right priorities, you know? I'm just speaking out my arse right now, to be fair. I don't know if I made any sense over the last 10 minutes, but that's what we do, boys and girls. Little sit-down video. I might do more of these if you guys want it, but actually have some topics to speak about rather than me just chatting absolute waff for probably 20 minutes. Let me know down below if you want to see more of these sit-down chat shit videos. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.